I'd like to introduce our state climatologist, Jeff Andersen, to talk to us about our weather update. Jeff?
Well, thanks, Mike, and good morning. A good chilly morning to you. Now, lots of odds and ends here to cover, but I think obviously the current topic here as we look out over the state of the hard freeze both this morning and yesterday morning. This is a graphic depicting the low temperatures yesterday, and Michigan was not alone. As you can see, much of the upper Midwest had sub-freezing temperatures. Matter of fact, it was even colder to some portions of our west. You can see lots of low 20s, but over Michigan yesterday morning, we generally had mid and upper 20s south and low and mid 20s across northern parts of the state. It was colder than that in interior areas of upper Michigan, where you can see a few mid-teens. That's the coldest, actually some of the coldest in the region. And the reason for this, of course, is we have an air mass out of the Northwest Territories that moved down over the last several days. The good news is that we're seeing the very last of it here this morning, and it'll be moving off and away from us. And then there are significant changes in the forecast as we look ahead. But 2 days with unusual temperatures, and I guess it goes without saying, you probably want to be doing some scouting. There likely has been some frost and cold injury to a number of crops that are overwintering, and that will gradually become apparent here over the next few days as it warms up. But this morning, actually a little bit colder in eastern portions of the state than the west. We've got some lake effect clouds over on the west side of the state that have kept temperatures up. So, but hard freezes over for most places for 2 days. Looking at the past week, big changes from what we've seen, at least in terms of temperature over most of the growing season. Lots of greens here, below normal temperatures from 3 to as much as 7 degrees below normal. We haven't had many weeks like that so far this year, but this was the at least relative to normal, the coolest week. It was also, for most parts of the state, it was another drier than normal week, and that's another theme we've been following here with the lack of or general below normal precipitation over the last several weeks. A couple of exceptions. One, much of the western and central upper peninsula, where we had significant precip rain and actually some frozen precipitation, some snowfall as well. And then the system that went through with the little April spring surprise with snowfall across the southeastern part of the state. Some areas down in the southeastern corner picked up a half an inch of water equivalent with that. And actually with the snow, it certainly was not seasonable, but it was a great thing for water. Nice controlled percolation back into the soil profile. But then you can see large areas here in central lower and southern lower where we had some cases less than a tenth of an inch for the whole week. So that is a continuing issue. I'll get back to that in a second. Manny mentioned soil temperatures here, and this is a combination of daily, or actually these are 5-minute values back 1 week over at Sparta, just north of Grand Rapids from our Enviro weather system. But these are the back to 1 week before the present. You can see we had a couple very, very nice, pleasant days last weekend. This is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then the cold front that brought the Arctic air arrived on Thursday, and our air temperatures have been downhill ever since. Now, all of the major colored lines here are temperatures above the the ground surface, sorry. The light brown here, these are 2-inch bare soil temperatures. And Manny talked about this and showed a graphic, but this gives you an idea how much does it change. And you can see when we do have sun back at the weekend, we were moving easily at least 10 degrees up and down each day. We were up well into the 50s for our average temperature at this particular site. But since the cold air arrived here, we've taken off at least our averages about 5 to 7 degrees Fahrenheit down to our current value. You can see down into the 40s again. So it always responds a little bit, takes a little longer for the soil temperature to move relative to the air, but they will be responding backward here as our air temperatures pick up over the next several days. Degree day totals still running ahead of normal. This is a graphic, once again, from Sparta as a representative site. 2021 is here in green. The dark black here, the thick black line here is our average. We're still running a good 1 to 2 weeks, calendar weeks ahead of normal, and actually ahead of where we've been over the last several years. Most of those years or seasons of the last 6 seasons are down here below the average. And then the red line up here is 2012, which was, again, that very, very unusually mild season. So we're still fairly far or advanced ahead of normal, typically versus where we should be. Moisture, I mentioned the lack of moisture here. There was some improvement in terms of the U.S. Drought Monitor across much of, I mentioned the Upper Peninsula, Central and Western back to normal in that particular area of the state, but still 78% of Michigan under either D0, abnormally dry, or in moderate drought conditions, the D1, and there wasn't much change down here to the south. Although, again, the precipitation over the last couple of days, especially in that southeastern corner of the state, should help. And we will be looking, that's another theme in the forecast, we are looking at a wetter type of pattern, I think, coming up in the medium range. I'll talk about that in just a second. Looking at our weather map this morning, this big area of high pressure down over the lower middle Mississippi Valley down here. This is the Arctic air mass. This is what brought all the cold air. It originated way up near the Arctic Circle and made its way down over the last week. It is on its way eastward, and we will see our wind shift around here gradually by later today and tomorrow, and warm up with it because it's taking the core of the cold air with it. There will be some instability, though, because of the cold air aloft. There could be a few isolated showers pop up in the state today, but the vast majority of areas will be probably partly sunny, windy and breezy, but dry. But we will see there is a threat of a few pop-up showers, even some lake effect in the areas near the lake because of the cold air still moving across relatively warmer water. By tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., you can see once again still under the very western, or I guess northwestern periphery of that air mass, but the next weather system of note here, it's an area of low pressure beginning to organize down over the southern Great Plains. That will approach late Friday and into Saturday with the next chance for rain. Although right now, as it's looking here Saturday morning, this will probably still be another dry day for most of the state. The best chances for rain with this system will be across the far southern parts of the state, and also to a little bit lesser extent here up in the north, where we'll have another frontal boundary that combines with this. But I think most areas will see cloudy skies, warmer temperatures. We will see our highs back up into the 50s and some low 60s here over the next couple of days, so it'll be significantly warmer than it's been. But the best chances for rainfall during the day on Saturday across far southern parts of the state. We could pick up 1/4 of an inch out of this, but most areas, again, remaining dry or seeing less than that. And it's right now it's a little iffy for the Spartan spring football. I guess it's not going to even be a game, sort of a quasi scrimmage. Bring an umbrella. Although air temperatures will be probably in the low and mid 50s for that, there will be the threat of rain during the day here. All of that will gradually come to an end late Saturday and set up the day for a little bit cooler conditions on Sunday and Monday, but then we've got a big change coming up by the early part of next week, and I'll mention that in just a second. Actually, let me go to that right now. Looking at the upper air, this is the forecast upper air conditions as of Tuesday, and what you can see is a huge change in where we are right now. We've got a big trough right over the middle of the Great Lakes region with that Arctic high pressure. By early next week, you can see we go from troughing to a major ridge with strong southwesterly flow across the Midwest. And that is going to lead to a really, really rapid and noticeable warm-up beginning on Monday, but certainly continuing Tuesday into Wednesday. The panel down here below are forecast temperatures as of mid-afternoon on Tuesday. And so both Tuesday and Wednesday, look for 70s. We'll probably push 80. It's hard to believe that given where we are right now. So major changes. Low temperatures will also increase significantly from the 30s here this weekend up into the 40s, even some low 50s by Wednesday. The other part of this is this trough that's out in the western U.S., we will see this spin off a major weather system by the middle of next week. So after Saturday, the next chance for significant precip, and I think this one will be significant. Right now, it looks like it will be a major rain producer for the upper Midwest, arriving late Tuesday, but more likely on Wednesday and then continuing into Thursday. And with that one, I think most of us will see at least a half an inch. Some cases more than that. If we look at the forecast total precipitation for the week here, this is through next Thursday, you can see this is a big difference from where we've been over the last couple of weeks. But much of the state is expected to see at least 3/4 of an inch, if not even more than that, here by next Thursday. Most of that, the vast majority of the total you're seeing here, is what is expected to fall mid next week. But collectively, what this means, and again, back to Manny's presentation, it looks like early part of the week, major opportunities to get out and get some things done. Take advantage of that, and especially the soil temperatures will respond. It's going to probably be beautiful, warm conditions, including daytime and overnight as well, and then some rain and precipitation on top of that. So this should be an excellent opportunity to get some of the early season planting done that Manny talked about. In the medium range forecast guidance, there's also a hint of a more active jet stream pattern across the movement of more waves. And with that, again, a little bit of a change of pace here, normal to above normal temperatures across the region. Also, maybe more importantly, normal to above normal precipitation totals. And both the 6 to 10 day and the 8 to 14 day outlooks are somewhat consistent in this. There's still some disagreement amongst some of the forecast models. So the confidence from the forecasters is not as high as it sometimes is, but it's still pointing towards more seasonable, but certainly wetter conditions, or a little bit more precipitation than what we've seen. Finally here, our new long lead outlook. This was issued last Thursday. Not too many surprises there. La Nina, as most of you know, is on the decline and likely will be gone here within the next few weeks, and we'll move to neutral conditions for the upcoming summer. But for the month of May, normal to above normal mean temperatures are predicted, as well as above normal precipitation totals. So that looks a lot like the medium range guidance that we just saw. That's always a little bit of a positive thing, that there's some agreement with that. And then for the first half of the summer, the May through July 3-month period here, warmer than normal. You can see not just for us, but for virtually the whole lower 48, and also normal to above normal precipitation totals. So that's the general long-term outlook. The latter part of the summer, and if you're interested, it's way out there, but still warmer than normal, but no direction on precip is what it basically says, at least at this point in the year. So summarizing here again, we're at the end of our cold outbreak, at least for now. There still could be more cold air way ahead, but right now the medium range doesn't suggest that. But we will see significant moderation in our temperatures. Chance of rain on Saturday, better chance middle of next week. But the biggest news, I think, is really warm, dry, and very early summer-like for next week. So hopefully you can take advantage of that. And with that, I'll go out and I'll introduce our next week's speaker here, Dr. Kelly Tillman from the Ohio State University, from the entomology department, and she's going to be with us next Thursday to talk about slug management. So something to look forward for next week. We'll go and shift gears to talk about entomology. And with that, Mike, I'll hand it back to you.
Jeff, I appreciate it. Really good news. The warmer temperatures are good news. The cold temperatures, what happened in the past is the past, but the forecast looks really good. So thank you for that.